Hello, hello. The title says Saybrook University and pronouns. What do I mean by pronouns? Well, if I go to my classes and I go to people, you will see here it will say she, her, she, her. And when I was applying to this program, I was speaking with Ethiopia Jackson. And she had she, her in her profile. And I mistook it as someone who was in gender transformation. This person did not have a picture of what they looked like. I think it was a picture of a giraffe or something. It was, one of these small pictures where it was hard to make out the image. As you see here, Ethiopia is part of the APA Division 32, the Society for Humanistic Psychology. That is the philosophy of Saybrook. That is what drew me to the institution. So I was originally pursuing an MA at counseling at Northwestern. They denied my application, but while I was in the application process, I also reached out to Saybrook. And I said, once I complete my MA in counseling at Northwestern, I intend on going to your school to get a PhD in psychology with the emphasis of consciousness, spirituality, and integrated health. So if you go here, they have their academic calendar, or academic program, I'm sorry, and they have the degree of consciousness, spirituality, and integrative health. And I believe in empirical data and peer-reviewed journal articles and the scientific method. And I also, my father once had a patient come in, and they were a student, they were a peer of mine. Actually, no, she wasn't a patient. I guess she was asking about yoga. Is yoga exercise? And my father kind of shot down the idea. I don't intend coming out of this program as some sort of shaman or druid or cleric or something like that. But I want people to be able to be in touch with those senses, those networks. Use it as a mode of relaxation, as a means of trauma healing. I'm someone who thinks that pharmaceutical intervention is probably the strongest method, the strongest technology we have right now. And these are complements to the medications doctors might give, or the treatments doctors might give. Or these might be something when you've exhausted other options you can explore. So this is not the program I'm enrolled in. I'm enrolled in the program of clinical psychology, which has a specialization. I can specialize in consciousness, spirituality, and integrative health, which I'm going to do. I'm also specializing in, it doesn't take much more to do existential and humanistic, and I really should just do complex trauma because I want to become a counseling psychologist, someone who is involved in trauma therapy. This school has a CCREP accredited counseling program. Now you see here Theopia is the, or maybe you don't, I believe Theopia is the head of this department, the chair of clinical psychology degree program. So I'm going to meet her at the end of this month. It's going to be my first interaction with her. And actually, we had an email correspondence where I thought she was implying that I wasn't coming. So the way this kind of worked up, I'm someone who was born upper middle class. I wasn't really aware of the finances. The only thing holding me back from this program was possibly the economics. So I was originally going to matriculate in the August semester of 2021, but I deferred my enrollment, and part of the reason why was I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. But I didn't realize that the government was just going to give me a subsidized loan that was going to cover the entire cost of the tuition. So I felt a little foolish. I could have started that August. So she kind of like asked, like, well, why didn't you start? Why didn't you start in September of 2021? Like, and well, that's one of the reasons. I guess I thought in my head that I would have to take out a private loan, and because when I went for an undergrad, I was tethered to my father's income. So he was billing Medicare and Medicaid $600,000, and he was taking in over $200,000 per year. And the government said that I was not eligible for financial aid because I was not a person of, I came from a family of means. So they wouldn't give me more than like $2,000, and my tuition cost $35,000 to $40,000 per year. Didn't put a dent in that tuition. It was enough for the cost of books. So that's what I anticipated when enrolling in this program. So I wasn't completely sure how I was going to secure funds. There was a derogatory hit on my credit report, and I thought that that might be problematic when trying to secure a loan. So now the government pays for my entire tuition. They have something called a Graduate Plus loan, and they give me all the expenses. This has actually been a problem my entire pursuit of graduate education. I was ignorant to this information. I always hear about student loan debt and all this stuff, and basically the debt I owe is to my father. So I wasn't taking out private loans from Discover or Sallie Mae or what other financial institution you might take out loans from. So she seemed to be a little, I wouldn't say annoyed, but I think there was some questioning why did I defer enrollment. And then when I asked about the dates for this conference, I thought she was implying that, she said something and I thought she was implying that I was making excuses not to come. And I was kind of offended because I had a professor in the past accuse me of making excuses to get out of something, and that wasn't the case. I don't make excuses to get out of school. I want to be here. So I wrote for one of my law course questions. Let's see if I can find it. Um, about compassionate caretaking. So it's like person-centered approach, and I'm more for the in-person relationship. I'm not against telephone or telehealth communications for therapy, but I think there's something that you can. There are some things you can't do over the phone, like give someone physical contact to comfort them, which might be necessary for someone who is a trauma victim. Now, I also feel that this is not enough. Like, you have to have some technical skill as a therapist in order to alleviate pain and suffering. So I do like the philosophy at Saybrook, where this word humanistic, whether it's just psychology on me, where when I hear the word, it resonates with me that this is like compassionate care. This is more Carl Rogers, I guess. Like, I was not too familiar with a lot of psychologists. Coming from a background in biology and chemistry, I knew scientific principles and scientific methods and biology and chemistry. And some of those things overlap into the field of psychology, but we just don't have I find that psychology is one profession that gives a lot of attention to the people who came up with theories. As far as, like, there are Nobel Prizes for medicine and physiology, but can you tell me the guy who came up with Viagra? There was a Nobel Prize winner in 1994 for the nitric oxide, like nitrates or something. I can't give you his name. I can mention Dr. Jarvik of the Jarvik heart, but I can't tell you, like, who came up with a bladder from a decellularized extracellular matrix. I actually do know that Wake Forest did something with a decellularized extracellular matrix, and that's because my professor told me. There's Dr. Ehrlich, the silver bullet, came up with some sort of antibiotic for syphilis. That's one. But, like, there are a lot of, you might know Watson and Crick, people who observe some of the things, but who came up with a lot of the pharmacology. I think when you study psychology, you hear, like, Jung and Maslow and Freud and Rogers. There might be a world-renowned heart surgeon, but that might be something that comes every generation. Can you tell me the name of the guy who performed heart surgery on Joe Torre's brother? Right? You Yankee fans out there, remember during the Yankees dynasty, Joe Torre's brother had a heart transplant. Can you give me the doctor's name? So as you can see, I also take classes at Seton Hall. They also have a counseling program. It's not CREP accredited, but they do have an APA accredited counseling psychology program. I am not going to transfer, even though I like Seton Hall. I do like this humanistic philosophy. I feel that the work I put in is what I get out of this. So there are some situations I want to work harder. So every semester is a learning experience. And what I really want to work on is competence for legal settings. You know, I want to do some forensic psychology, and speaking of people's tones, I felt I lost my professor. Like when I mentioned this thing about the APA Division 41 and stuff, I felt my professor responded to this. And I don't know, for some reason when I read this, I felt like he was disappointed in me. By mentioning these things, I felt like he's like, oh, he's a social justice warrior or something. Oh, he's not actually a lawyer or something. I thought he was, with all the effort he was putting in, I thought he was a law student. I'm not interested in corporate law, tax law, and all the other things that are required of getting a JD. And honestly, I thought it would be too much reading for me. Now that I'm doing the health law is something that I'm fully invested in. It is something that I have spent a lifetime on. So I'm able to put the work in. Ever since I was a kid, I was observing my father's private practice. I was talking about going into healthcare. And the problem with my pursuit of healthcare, it's always been advertised as direct patient care. So like a doctor, a nurse. PA wasn't even a consideration for me. I didn't know that a PA was a thing growing up. That was something I kind of learned later on. But I wish somebody would have articulated to me, PhD. You can go into medical research R&D. You can learn physiology and chemistry. And part of the things I wanted to do was like medical device R&D. And part of the problem with the design I was coming up with was I didn't know what materials would be rejected by the body. So when you have like organ transplants, you have to know if the organ is compatible. So you do the blood test and you do some genetic testing to see if the body is going to reject this donor tissue. So later on in my life, I took a tissue engineering course, and basically my cure-all for organ transplant and medical device R&D is a decellularized extracellular matrix, because it's the scaffolding tissue that comes standard in the human body. You might have glass ceramic or something as a scaffold or something, but it's durable. We know that it can last as long as like 100 years. Like humans can live to be 110 years old. So the durability of the collagen is known, and we know that it's not going to be rejected by the body because a decellularized extracellular matrix is stripped of its living components. So you can use mechanical forces, you can use a freeze-thaw method, or you can put it in a hypotonic solution, let the cells swell, then put it in a freezing solution and have the cells lyse, and then you can thaw it and you can repeat that process, and then you can use some physical pressure to kind of massage some of the living tissue off, treat it with some, I don't want to treat it with chemicals, but if you need be, and remove all the living tissue. Now you're left with this decellularized extracellular matrix, and you can treat it with the recipient tissue so you can start building new organs for that person. Now, I've taken a step further. I think we can use this as a scaffolding material to build other things and use it as a medical device sleeve. So I have this idea for a medical device that will do internal blood monitoring, and this might become useful in my graduate studies because I did a thing on Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, and a lot of the research, almost every article I read mentioned catecholamine surges. And my father was mentioning the fleeting nature of adrenaline, and you have to have a catheter on the arm to measure 20 minutes after the needle punctures the arm. And like for real-time monitoring of adrenaline, that might serve useful. And like my question was like, if someone has a surge of catecholamine due to maybe they took some medication, maybe they took albuterol, and then they received negative news, or maybe they received positive news, would there be another surge of catecholamine, or has the body kind of hit a certain peak threshold? Has it hit a certain max point? Or is it a situation where the initial surge is over and now there's another surge? Or is that not possible because you've depleted kind of your catecholamine reserves? Is there adrenal fatigue? My father kind of implied that there really wasn't. So it's not that I don't like working with people. Most of my life has been modeled to have good bedside manner, to have patients trust the advice that I give them, that they're going to feel that, I keep saying this, I want to speak with conviction because I have conviction in what I'm saying, not because I took a Dale Carnegie course. I want people to know that when I give them medical advice, it is sound, that is based on years of training, that is based on the best professional judgment I can possibly give them, and if I'm unsure of something, I can refer them to someone who I believe has professional sound judgment. And this has been a lifelong pursuit. But that doesn't mean I actually have to use my bedside manner. You know, it's something that I cultivated over the years, but I might have I might touch more patients by setting policy and doing medical research. Oh, this is confidentiality. You should have a liability statement too. No, this is not GPA repair, because My first semester in college, I was taking Spanish. I have no interest in taking Spanish. One of the courses was a course that I had no say in. It was given to me at random. It was UFO and string theory, and it was an intensive writing course. And the professor arbitrarily took a letter grade off. This is my life's work. Professor Santos, I know you can hear me right now. Stop pretending to know my intentions. Stop pretending to know everything about me. I watched my father work his fucking ass off from 10 in the morning to 10 at night. I watched him adopt the security rule and electronic healthcare records, and I watched how this changed the dynamics of his office. I watched as insurance companies didn't pay my father because a patient pulled out and there's some sort of grace period. I listened to the stories about how if you do one procedure one way, you can bill another way, right? I learned about new patients versus consults and how you can bill differently. I learned about how the insurance company would come in and say, no, you can't bill this way. We're going to change how much money you make off this thing. I would type up my father's dictations. I had to deal with people accusing my father and other doctors of not using sound professional judgment and giving out medication based on some kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies. I had to deal with conflicts of interest as my father was an employee. He has his own private practice, but he's also an employee of a Northwell hospital and a Catholic health hospital. And I have to interact with all these doctors who are going to treat me, and I have to think about conflict of interest. On one of these posts, I speak about how my father spent so long at the office, I thought he was cheating on my mother. I'm pretty sure that this Professor Santos is actually still a student. He's given us his presentations on cortisol and stuff. This is my PowerPoint I just made last night. This guy didn't like my catecholamine surge. He's like, Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, how obvious is this? Catecholamine surge. Hey, I play the schedule that's in front of me. I am going to expand on this theory and see if the body's responsive, that some Takotsubo cardiomyopathy is a result of the body's urge. Like, let's say you have sleep paralysis, the body's struggle to stay awake, so it produces such force in a prone position. Am I using that properly? It's going to cause the heart to bubble, balloon, in an effort to get the body to move. I hate fucking bitches who pretend to think they know what other people's intentions are. That's how the world got conquered. I know what my intentions are. And I can clearly see when you verbalize what your intentions are, that it was it was game over. I really don't want to have to go through life again so that I can get the education I want. This is my education. I'm going to cherry pick every single class I take. I'm not going to sit there through American history in high school. I'm going to tell you how fucking boring and useless this is. I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to read The Hobbit. I don't give a fuck about The Hobbit. I'm going to take as much math, chemistry, and health, law, and ethics as I can. What I have to do, I have to show you. Yes, I have to hold your fucking hand and show you. These are A's. I'm not trying to trick the system. I'm not working the system to score points. I am capable of doing this work. That it wasn't my mommy who said I was smart. It was the state of New York. It was my teachers. It was the people who I was surrounded by. Oh, what happened in high school? Those teachers who said I was smart, they abused me as a kid. It affected my learning. I don't want to hear, oh, does cortisol cause stress? What am I up at fucking 3 in the morning? I'm watching an infomercial on lipase or whatever the fuck it is. Cortisol makes your tummy fat. Take liposine. Cortisol can be caused by stress. Yeah. What happens when you don't have the ability to have cortisol in your body? What if you can't produce? What if you have the equivalent of diabetes to cortisol? Some sort of pancreatitis? Would that do it? What would... Am I still going to have stress? Am I going to have the ability to lose weight? Here's something I brought up in my psychophysiology course. Why do soccer players run all the time? Do they have to mentally engage a stressor? There's nothing that should be engaging the fight or flight response. There's nothing that is causing an imminent danger to their health or well-being. Why are they running? I check out and this guy's he's like, okay guys, here, now it's time for my PowerPoint. Holy shit. I learn more when I just read the stuff. For this course, For this course, look at all those A's. Do you know how many times I watched the video? 0. I watched this video 0 times, but guess what? There's a transcript. Is my high school not impressed with my GPA repair? No, my high school should not be like, well, you know, Matt's grandfather died his freshman year of college, right? My high school should just be like, well, we know what Matt was capable of. Matt was an A student in grade school. He had A's here. He had A's in college. So he had life experience in college. Now that everyone's dead, he has A's. He doesn't have compassion fatigue. Everybody's dead. Well, what if your daddy dropped? My daddy probably has life insurance, so. No, you know what happened? An EMS injected me with ketamine, so now I don't feel emotion. You ever see these people with the pencils? Like, I'm gonna, they're just writing, they're just like air guitaring with a pencil. Listen, you wouldn't need me as a healthcare policymaker if you could follow the rules. Oh, the doctors, they know what they're doing. The EMS, they know what they're doing. No, you violated informed consent. You clearly don't know the law. Oh, the law's different from medicine. I know what's good for you. You shut your mouth if you knew what was good for you. Oh, the thing that put me in a coma is the thing that's good for me? And why did you feel the need to give me the thing that put me in a coma? You didn't have your seatbelt on! Let me tell you something about Colorado. We have a system here. We only have one smart person that we send up at a time. Everybody else here is a dumb fuck. Look at me. I'm an EMS for UC Health. I'm a dumb fuck. You think we give a fuck about net neutrality? We drain that fucking New York Stock Exchange like it's our fucking... We're not in Colorado, okay? Now, if you see Theopia, she's on court-ordered AOT. So try and be inclusive. Be like, if she says that she's going to go out, make sure she stays in because she can't go to the bar. this post again because Theopia. Theopia, you told me this program was going to cost $80,000 to $90,000. It's going to cost me $400,000. It better be worth it, okay?